been clamoring by America that they are killing Christians in Nigeria. Okay, it is not innocent. It is not innocent. When Goodluck Jonathan was in power, Nigeria needed to buy certain things to use in fighting that battle. The one who blocked us was America.
Right, welcome to Pulse Media Services, where we discuss matters affecting the body of Christ. This particular video is very, very important because it's an ongoing conversation on the purported Christian genocide in Nigeria. Of course, why the United States of America and then some Christians in some part of Nigeria believe there are Christian genocide in the country. Others are not in support of that particular narrative. But of course, there are several pastors that have held their opinion on this matter of genocide. And then in this particular episode, we shall be featuring every of these men of God, each of these men of God that came up with each of their opinion on the matter. So I want you to watch this video, listen carefully. In particular, emphasis is Pastor Femi Lazarus, who definitely believe there's nothing like genocide in Nigeria, and if there's any kind of genocide, America never assisted Nigeria in fighting what it terms Christian genocide. That the interest of America in Nigeria is about its resources. But I want you to listen to Abel Damina's experiences and every other man of God, what they have to say concerning this matter of the genocide. I will see you in another video. Thank you.
My name is Mike Arnold. At the personal request of Nigerian Presidential Advisor Reno Omokri and National Security Advisor Nuhu Rabadu, I recently traveled to Nigeria as part of a much publicized fact-finding mission to report the truth on the Nigerian genocide.
There's been clamoring by America that they are killing Christians in Nigeria. Okay, it is not innocent. It is not innocent. When Goodluck Jonathan was in power, Nigeria needed to buy certain things to use in fighting that battle. The one who blocked us was America. We got machineries from a country, I don't want to mention that country, that was busy and they were having victories in Sambisa, all other places. The one who asked them to be sacked later was America. They are showing interest because they know that will divide the country. Then they can come in. Anywhere they step bonds. Any country that is richer than, in terms of mineral resources, than any country in Africa, it is Venezuela. Anywhere there is wealth, bonds. Be careful so that lest they seem to be bringing help, but the idea is to penetrate and keep you bounded. There are countries that once they complain about your country, you are doing something right.
My name is Mike Arnold. At the personal request of Nigerian Presidential Advisor Reno Omokri and National Security Advisor Nuhu Rabadu, I recently traveled to Nigeria as part of a much publicized fact-finding mission to report the truth on the Nigerian genocide. This was just one additional step in my 6-year mission to investigate and document this tragedy. During this time, I've traveled across Nigeria, often at great personal risk and sacrifice, visiting communities struck by genocide, concentration camps of the displaced generation of Nigerians, schools and orphanages filled with children who saw their families slaughtered, and much, much more, including some of the highest offices in the land. The reality of my recent trip was that I was invited to be a stooge for their international PR stunt. They somehow thought that after 6 years of investigating this genocide firsthand, across many dark corners of Nigeria, and working to raise awareness of this back home, that I would somehow get up front of the media and lie about it. Of course, I refused, and instead God used me to flip the script, and I told the truth that they are so desperately trying to hide. I did what I was asked. I spoke the truth, and by God's mighty power, it had great impact. A long-suppressed truth is always explosive. The data shows that just a few days after the press conference, total impressions across all media were more than 3 billion. And the narrative worldwide flipped from 80% denying genocide to 70% affirming. Observers on both sides of the Atlantic say this had an obvious impact on President Trump's recent statements and actions in this matter. I think that's pretty explosive. This is part 2 of that report. It is the official continuation of the important work I was formally invited to do by top representatives of the Nigerian government, and it exposes an even darker, deeper, and more suppressed truth. When you understand what's happening in Nigeria, the pattern is undeniable. The cost of inaction will be catastrophic. So now we ask, what must be done? These are my recommendations. Number 1, immediate U.S. congressional delegation to Nigerian IDP camps and mass graves. Just like in Bosnia in 1995, when congressional delegates visited Srebrenica mass graves and forced the world to confront genocide, so too must U.S. lawmakers walk through the camps in Abuja, Jos, and Benue. Let them hear from widows who lost everything. Let them hear from orphans who saw their parents slaughtered. They are living eyewitnesses to genocide, and their voices must be heard. Let them see the mountains of dirt left over from illegal strip mining of blood-soaked ground. Let them see the mass graves in Nalatwa, where 200 to 280 bodies were bulldozed into the dirt after an attack that left no survivors. Let cameras roll. Let witness testimonies be recorded. Let the world see what the Nigerian government is hiding and denying. This one action can force global recognition, unlock humanitarian aid, and open the floodgates of accountability. Number 2, focus on the displaced generation. Emergency humanitarian relief is needed today. Every congressional hearing should feature testimonies from internally displaced Nigerians. Every media story should center displaced voices. Every humanitarian dollar should prioritize the camps and getting people out of the camps back home, restored safely. Every diplomatic pressure point should reference specific displaced persons. Every ICC filing should be built on IDP evidence. Make the displaced generation impossible to ignore. This is how the genocide will be stopped. Immediate actions must include emergency witness documentation teams to major IDP camps, trauma counseling and medical care for widows and orphans, educational programs preventing radicalization, international adopt-a-camp programs, and fast-track resettlement.
Don't have anything to say, shut it.
Do you know that one young man of God spoke about the genocide in this nation and his page was yanked out? Another young man of God was now saying that there's no genocide, that what US wants to do is to take our resources. A young man of God. That young preacher who is saying that US is coming to take our resources has not been to the north to minister. He doesn't know the north. These guys, when they are invited to the north, they stop at Abuja. If the Lord has called you guys, come to Yobe and speak the name of, let's see, come to Kano. They will talk about living and dying for Jesus' bed. Their plane only lands in Abuja, not even in Kuje. It's in Abuja town, airport road, near the airport. Anything happened, they move to the airport back. A man had been crying. He cried and said, Trump, look at this matter. And a young preacher who has more days to live is saying that US will only come and sabotage this nation. It means that his wickedness has just been revealed. He doesn't have the brotherhood in heart of his brethren that live in the north. He has detached himself from the cry of that man and those in the north, in Benue, in Nasarawa, in Taraba, in Kaduna here, in Plateau. The cry of these brethren in the north doesn't cause sleepless night for these guys. They are wicked.
Abel Damina is my name. Look. I couldn't wait to get back home and be a part of the ongoing conversation. There's been this conversation going on whether there's a genocide in Nigeria or there's no genocide in Nigeria. And I listen to certain individuals who say there's no such thing in Nigeria. Well, whether you call it genocide or you don't call it genocide, let me speak as a victim. I am not just a student of research, but I'm speaking as a victim of these gruesome circumstances around the Nigerian people, where innocent lives have been taken away by some people who think they have more right than others in this nation. And some people have reduced it to herders and farmers clash. No, sir, this has been ongoing. I grew up in northern Nigeria. My father was a pastor with the Assemblies of God Church. One morning we just woke up in Assemblies of God Church, Samaru Zaria, this somewhere adjacent the north gate of Samaru Zaria. My father was a pastor. All of a sudden we woke up in the morning, no provocation, nothing. And the next thing we were hearing was people were just running all over our house and the church with machetes and all of that. The next thing was they started pouring petrol all over the building, both the church and the house, because our house was attached to the church. And the next thing was flames. Everything was burned right down to ashes. We narrowly escaped, found a place where we could shelter ourselves in the military barracks. Eventually, they brought us back to the lecturers' quarters of ABU Zaria, and we had to camp with a family for weeks and months before we could rebuild and start life all over again. That is long. I'm talking about 1986-87. What about the Metasine situation? Metasine was a sect of the Islamic religion who went around burning and destroying and killing Christians back in the 80s. This is far before there was anything like farmers and herders clash. Then fast forward. What about in the year 2000, where over 2,000 people were killed in Kaduna? Year 2000. What about the over 300 people that were victims of the Miss World in November 2002? All of them, they were not a part of the Miss World. They were just on their own. Something happened somewhere else and they became victims of it. Lives were killed, houses were destroyed, and whenever they are carrying out this charade, they will be shouting Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, and they will carry their matches and carry whatever they have, and they will move in their numbers. And everybody on their way that is not chanting what they are chanting becomes a victim. I can go on and on. A few years ago, I was preaching in Kaduna for a great man of God, and I only succeeded in preaching Sunday morning service. After the service, the next morning, as we were preparing for the next service on Monday, the next thing I was hearing was the whole city is on fire. Kaduna is on fire. Please stay in the hotel room. Don't come out. They are killing, they are bombing churches, they are killing everybody. That is how we were stuck in a hotel. Even in the hotel, we were not sure of ourselves, because they were going from hotel to hotel, room to room, killing people that were not chanting Allahu Akbar. And somehow God saved our souls. After about 4 days, we were able to leave Kaduna. But unfortunately, a friend of mine who was a pastor, Reverend Northcote Andrew of blessed memory, was caught in the midst of this as he was escaping for his life. They caught him because he was wearing a collar of a bishop. They hacked him to death, dug the ground, buried him, and put a cross there. It is that little wooden cross that made people know that there was a corpse in that place. And this, my friend, was buried. These are real life situations. So for somebody to just sit down in the comfort of his home, maybe somewhere in the south, and be saying there's no such thing in northern Nigeria, my brother, you've not been a part of it. We've been right in the heart of the fire. I remember one night, these Muslim boys were all over the place in my school, and they were shouting Allahu Akbar. They were looking for me. I had to escape. That night, my saving grace was that I found a female hostel and I slept under the bed. By the next day, I left town. For what? I did nothing. No provocation. Just because I am preaching the gospel. And of course, some of them believe that once you are not of the Islamic faith, you are an infidel. And they believe that if you kill an infidel, you will sleep with 7 virgins. All of this kind of indoctrination that leads to violence at the slightest provocation, whether it has to do with the people or not. You just get on the streets. What about the Reinhard Bonnke crusade? I'm talking about the Reinhard Bonnke crusade in Kano, where people were hacked, macheted, and killed just because a crusade where the gospel of Christ was going to be preached. And that is why I thank God for people like President Donald Trump, who lent his voice to what is going on here. At least, for whatever is what, there's an ongoing conversation all over the world.
For over 30 years, right from 2021, it is before that time, because 2021, this thing come glaring. There's a jihad moving to destroy Nigeria. Before 2021, there was a lot of casualties that will be received all over the north. I would say Nigeria. But it has been silenced, enduring the pain, until a launch of the jihad came 2020, 2001. And the full blow was just moving. We are just enjoying it, pressing it down. Women are being raped. Come and see, we have to be slave to the Islamic terrorists. They will force you to go and farm for them. If our local native people did not go and farm for them, then even if you farm, they know you are farm, you will not harvest anything. Until this thing grown up to become a full-blown genocide. I have the statistics. I have been to the monument. I have called names. These are the names of people that have been killed in one day, one night, 501. This happened on the 7th March 2010 in Dogonahawa, Gemburuk. Gemburuk is a local dialect name from our forefathers. When they came, gradually our forefathers accommodated them in peace. But when they grown up with external forces, they changed the name to Dogonahawa. Abandon the native, this is a jihad movement. When they want to take the land, they invited Islamic terrorists from the far north, Niger, Chad. If Nigeria don't know about it, please know about this. Why did they cancel history in Nigerian secondary school? It's jihad. So that we will not read about the history of how Ottoman Danfodio was moving towards the cause to force everybody in Nigeria to become a Muslim. But our forefathers blocked him from flowing into the south. They hit that the west, southwest, southeast, south that they are supposed to receive. We are the ones that are receiving it at the middle bed. We stop that hit by standing on our faith in Christ. We refuse to submit our soul to Islam. That is why in one night, look at it, 501 people were killed completely in one night. I was there in the morning after the insurgent left. Come and see blood everywhere. In the process of carrying dead corpse from every house, from some on the road, some on the field, some in the gutter,